Evan Holt never expected his quiet night shift to turn into something strange. He was an engineer, not a pilot, not a soldier, and definitely not someone who dealt with royal rescue missions. His station, Outpost Helios 4, was a small human structure floating on the edge of explored space. It was boring, lonely, and full of broken machines he fixed again and again. He used to joke that Helios 4 was a retirement home for tools. Nothing exciting ever happened here. That was why he froze in surprise when the long-range scanner beeped with an emergency signal. Evan blinked at the monitor, rubbed his eyes, and checked it again just in case the old system was glitching. But the signal was real, flashing bright red and pulsing with a repeating distress code he didn't recognize. "What kind of signal is that?" he muttered. He zoomed in. The signal looked old, the type used by alien monarchies in the inner sectors, but why would someone high status run into trouble near a small human outpost like his? Evan knew he shouldn't jump into a dangerous situation. He was alone, his station had limited defenses, and humans didn't usually interfere in royal alien problems. But he heard the faint tremble in the repeating signal. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded almost like a voice. Someone was scared. Someone was close to dying out there. Evan sighed. "Well, I guess I'm going." He grabbed his suit, ran to the hangar, and jumped into the small patrol ship. It wasn't made for fights, but it could fly fast enough. The moment the ship detached from the docking arm, Evan pushed the thrusters to full power and followed the signal's coordinates. The closer he got, the more he saw fragments floating in the darkness. Burned metal, shattered panels, and bits of unknown alien craft drifted silently in space. Something violent happened here, something recent. Evan's heart thumped. This wasn't a normal accident. Someone had attacked whatever ship this was. And as he weaved through debris, he spotted a small round pod rotating slowly, its surface scratched and dented. That was the source of the signal. "All right," he whispered, steadying his breath. "Let's try not to get blown up." He moved closer, activated the docking clamps, and secured the pod to his patrol ship. Once it locked in, he rushed to the back compartment and opened the hatch. Cold air hissed out, and a dim purple glow filled the small space. Inside the pod, curled up and breathing weakly, was someone he never imagined seeing in his entire life. She had long silver hair that floated in the low gravity like threads of moonlight. Her skin had a soft, pale tone with a faint shimmer, and a marking like a glowing crown rested above her forehead. Her clothing looked delicate yet royal, interwoven fabrics layered with symbols he had only seen in alien textbooks. Evan stared. "Oh no," he whispered. "You've got to be kidding me." She wasn't just an alien, she was royalty. And judging from her appearance, she was likely from the Lysari Dominion, one of the strongest and most respected empires in the galaxy. Evan felt his throat tighten. Humans didn't normally interact with Lysari royalty. Humans were considered new, small, and mostly unimportant in the bigger galactic picture. Saving a member of their royal family was the type of thing that could change diplomatic relations or start wars. But she was unconscious. She needed help. Evan knelt inside the pod and checked her vitals with his scanner. Weak pulse, low oxygen. She needed to be moved fast. As he reached under her arms, her eyes suddenly opened, bright violet, shining like crystals. Do not," she whispered, her voice soft but strained. "It's okay," Evan said in the calmest tone he could manage. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm getting you to safety." Her eyes studied him, confused and tired. "Human?" "Yeah," he said. "Surprising, I know. But I'm all you've got right now." She didn't resist. She let him lift her out of the pod and carry her to the medical seat on his patrol ship. Her breathing eased slightly as he connected her to a portable oxygen system. She still looked weak, but at least she wasn't fading away. After a moment, she spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "My ship," Attacked! I saw the wreck, Evan said. It looked pretty bad out there. Her fingers trembled, clutching the edge of the seat. They were hunting me. Who? Evan asked. She shook her head slowly. Cannot say. Dangerous. Too dangerous. He didn't push further. She was exhausted, half-conscious, and scared. He needed to get her somewhere safe first. Evan returned to the pilot chair and activated the engines. The moment he turned the ship around, the radar screamed. 3 red dots appeared behind him. Enemy ships. Evan's blood ran cold. You've got to be kidding me! He jammed the thrusters again. The patrol ship shot forward, but the enemy ships were faster. Sleek, dark vessels, the type used by elite mercenaries or rebel agents. Whoever wanted her dead wasn't messing around. Missiles launched. Evan grabbed the controls, pulled hard to the left, and dodged the first shot by inches. The second missile flew past the ship and exploded in the debris field, lighting up the darkness. Inside the medical seat, the alien girl struggled to stay awake. You must not let them capture me. I wasn't planning on it, Evan yelled, spinning the ship to avoid another blast. He wasn't a fighter pilot. He was an engineer, but he knew the strengths of his little patrol ship. It could maneuver sharply and had strong boosters. He used every trick he knew, dives, rolls, sudden power bursts, to stay alive. But the enemy ships were closing in fast. Come on, Evan muttered. The outpost was still far, and he didn't have weapons strong enough to fight. The only option was to use the surrounding debris field. Evan aimed the ship directly through the wreckage, weaving between broken metal and floating pieces of the destroyed vessel. The enemy ships followed, but their big frames struggled to make sharp turns. One scraped against a large metal panel and spun out. Another collided with a floating beam and exploded in a flash. Only one kept chasing them. Evan didn't celebrate. He was too busy trying not to die. When he finally burst out of the debris field and saw Helios 4 ahead, he almost laughed with relief. "We're home!" he shouted. "Safe?" the girl whispered weakly. "Not yet, but we're close." He opened a channel and yelled into the comms, "Station! Open bay doors now! I've got incoming trouble!" The old station's AI responded with its usual slow tone. "Acknowledged. Opening doors." The patrol ship shot into the hangar. The moment it crossed the shield barrier, Evan slammed the emergency lock button. Huge metal doors shut behind him, sealing the hangar and blocking the enemy ship outside. A second later, something crashed into the door, shaking the whole station. But it didn't break through. Evan let out a long, shaky sigh. We made it. Thank every star in the sky. He unstrapped himself and hurried to the girl. She looked slightly better, but still weak. Her eyes followed him as he approached. "You risked much? For someone you do not know," she whispered. "Well," Evan said, scratching the back of his head awkwardly, "it would have felt wrong to leave you out there. And besides, you looked like you needed help." Her expression softened, almost surprised. "Humans are more courageous than rumors say." "You met the wrong humans," he joked lightly. "We're tough when we need to be." She studied him with calm curiosity. "What is your name?" "Evan Holt," he replied. "Engineer, fixer of broken machines, unexpected rescuer of royalty, apparently." Her lips curved faintly. "I am Lyria, princess of the Lissari Dominion." Evan froze again. Princess, right, of course. His luck was unbelievable. He found a royal escape pod, rescued an alien princess, survived enemy mercenaries, and now she was on his station. She watched him with tired but grateful eyes. "Thank you, Evan Holt." Hearing his name in her soft voice felt strange, kind of warm. He cleared his throat. "We should get you to the med bay." "You need rest." Lyria nodded quietly, trusting him more than before. As Evan guided her out of the patrol ship, he couldn't ignore one thought that kept echoing in his mind. What had he just gotten himself into? He had no idea that saving her would pull him into a much bigger danger, and a connection he never expected to have. But for now, he was just relieved she was alive, and that he had managed to outrun death at least one more time. Evan guided Princess Lyria through the quiet corridor of Helios 4, his hand hovering close in case she stumbled. The station was old, metallic, and full of flickering lights. Compared to the polished beauty of alien royal ships, it probably looked like a broken storage box. Even so, Lyria didn't complain. She walked slowly beside him, observing everything with calm eyes, as if trying to understand the strange world she had landed in. The medbay door slid open. Evan helped her sit on the examination bed, and she exhaled softly, tired from the long chase and escape. He quickly checked her vitals, applied a few medical patches, and attached a simple healing stimulator to her arm. "This should help stabilize your breathing," he said. Lyria looked at the band around her arm. "Human technology," she murmured, almost amazed. "It is simple but effective." "Story of our lives," Evan replied with a small grin. "We don't have fancy tech like your empire, but we make things work." She studied him for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. "You speak with pride." "Well, someone has to," he said, leaning against the counter. "Most aliens think humans are weak or too new to matter." Lyria shook her head slowly. "Not weak, only unfamiliar." Her gentle tone made Evan relax. She wasn't judging his species. If anything, she seemed curious. He brought her water, and she sipped it carefully. When she finished, Evan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "All right," he said. "Now that you're safe, can you tell me what happened out there?" Lyria hesitated. Her eyes dimmed slightly, not from fear, but from responsibility. "My ship was attacked by a faction that opposes my family. They want to take power." "A rebellion?" Evan asked. "A small one," she said softly, "but dangerous. They have strong supporters in hidden places." Evan rubbed his forehead. "So they chased you all the way to human space?" "Yes. They did not want witnesses, and they did not expect me to escape in the pod." She paused, then added quietly, "I thought I would die alone." Evan felt something twist inside him. Lyria looked so calm now, but he could imagine how terrified she must have been inside that pod, drifting through cold space all alone. "Well, you're not alone anymore," he said gently. "You're safe here." Lyria lifted her gaze, her violet eyes meeting his. "You saved me when you had no reason to. Humans surprise me." Evan shrugged. "Saving people is what good people do." She smiled faintly at that, a soft curve of her lips that made her look even more glowing. A moment of silence passed before Lyria asked, "This place, is it only you?" "Pretty much," Evan answered. "I'm the only engineer stationed here right now. Others rotate in and out for inspections, but I do most of the work." "You live here alone?" she asked. "Yeah," he admitted. "Gets boring sometimes. But at least nothing dangerous happens out here." He regretted the words immediately, because right then, the station shook. Not violently, not enough to panic, but enough to make Evan tense, enough to make Lyria grip the bed. Evan checked the monitor. "Probably just the outer shields adjusting. The station is old." Lyria watched him, searching his face. "You are worried." "I always worry about this place," he muttered. "It breaks more than it works." She let out a small breath, half amused. "You fix everything alone?" "That's my job." "And yet," she said softly, "you risked leaving your safe station to rescue me." "Well, I heard your distress signal," he said. "And I'm not heartless." She looked at him with a quiet expression that made him strangely self-conscious. He cleared his throat and quickly changed the topic. "You should rest. I'll check the hangar doors. Make sure nothing followed us." I want to help, Lyria said. You almost fainted earlier. I feel stronger now. Your body disagrees, Evan said. Lyria tilted her head slightly, studying him like he was the strange one. Why do humans always pretend to be stronger than they are? That's an alien question if I've ever heard one, Evan replied, chuckling. She smiled softly again, just enough to show she appreciated the humor. Before he could leave, though, Lyria suddenly spoke again. Her voice was quiet, almost shy. Evan? Yeah. When you first spoke to me in the pod, you said something unusual. Evan blinked. I said a lot of things. I was panicking half the time. No, she said calmly. You said I was hotter than your ex. Evan froze. Oh no, he whispered. I actually said that out loud? Lyria nodded, her glowing eyes fixed on him, waiting for an explanation. Evan covered his face with his hands. I didn't mean to say it. I mean, I did, but I didn't mean to say it like that. It just slipped out. And what does it mean? He pulled his hands down slowly. It means you're, well, attractive. Lyria blinked once, twice. Then her skin began to shimmer with a soft, pinkish glow. It spread from her cheeks to the sides of her face. She was blushing. Evan's jaw dropped. Wait, that's your version of... Yes, she said, embarrassed. It is uncommon for someone to say such a thing to a Lysari princess. Well, I didn't know the rules, Evan muttered. Sorry if it was weird. It was not weird, she said quickly. He blinked in surprise. She looked away for a moment, the glow still warming her skin. It was unexpected, but not unpleasant. Evan tried to act normal, but his heart was definitely beating faster. He didn't expect her to respond like that. He definitely didn't expect a princess to blush because of him. Before he could think too much, the station lights flickered again. Evan glanced at the ceiling. That's not normal, he said. He left the medbay and walked to the control deck. Lyria followed slowly, wanting to stay close. He checked the panels and frowned. Looks like the sensors are being jammed. By whom? She asked. Not sure, he replied, but someone is trying to scan us. Probably the guys who chased you. Lyria's face tightened with concern. They are persistent. Well, they want you, Evan said. If they take you, it probably means trouble for your entire empire. And for humans, too, Lyria added. Because you helped me. Evan stared at the monitor and exhaled sharply. Great. So we're both targets. Lyria stepped beside him, standing close enough that he could feel her presence. I am sorry, Evan. You did not ask for this. No, he admitted. But I'd do the same thing again. Her eyes softened. Even with the danger? He smiled slightly. Someone had to pull you out of that pod. And I guess that someone was me. She looked at him with a quiet warmth that made him forget for a moment that they were in danger. Then the alarm rang. A sharp, high-pitched sound echoed across the deck. Evan rushed to the radar, his heart pounding. 3 unknown signals appeared just outside the station range. Lyria stiffened. They found us. Yeah, Evan said grimly. Looks like they did. The signals grew stronger. They weren't firing yet, but they were circling carefully, as if studying the station. They are looking for a weak spot, Lyria whispered. Well, Evan said, unfortunately this station has plenty. He checked the shields. Only half of them were operational. The old generators were struggling. Can you fight? Lyria asked. No, Evan said honestly. This station wasn't built for battles. Then we must hide? That won't work. They're scanning everything. They'll find any pocket we hide you in. Lyria looked down, her hands tightening. This is my fault. No, it's not, Evan said firmly. You were attacked. That's not your fault. But if you fall into danger because of me... Stop, Evan said. I'm not abandoning you. We'll figure something out. Lyria looked up at him, her eyes bright with emotion, fear, gratitude, and something else he didn't fully understand. You are strange, Evan Holt, she said softly. You're not the first one to say that. A small sound escaped her, almost a laugh, but the danger outside didn't disappear. The enemy ships were charging their scanners again. Evan took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't brave in the heroic way stories described heroes. But he wasn't going to let her be captured again. Lyria stepped closer. Whatever happens, thank you for saving me. You don't have to thank me yet, he said. We're not done. What is your plan? She asked. Evan stared at the flickering screen, at the enemy ships drawing closer. A slow, daring idea formed in his mind. It was risky, maybe impossible, but he didn't have another choice. We're going to use your knowledge and my engineering, together. Lyria nodded without hesitation. I trust you. Hearing those words made something ignite inside Evan, courage he didn't know he had. The enemy ships moved in. The station hummed with warning alerts. And Evan Holt, a simple human engineer, prepared to make his stand with an alien princess who glowed softly beside him. Whatever they faced together next, it was going to change everything. Evan stood in the control deck while the lights flickered around him. Lyria stayed close, her calm presence somehow balancing the fear in the air. The enemy ships outside were no longer hiding. They had surrounded Helios 4 like dark shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Evan looked at the station's power readings again. Weak shields, slow systems, no heavy weapons. If the attackers decided to break in, they would succeed easily. He knew that. But that didn't mean he would give up. They're not firing, Evan said quietly. That means they want to capture, not destroy. They want me alive, Lyria confirmed. They wish to prove something to the Dominion. If they take me, they will claim the throne is weak. Evan let out a slow breath. Then we have to make sure they don't touch this station. He stared at the metal floor, thinking fast. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't even a real strategist. But he knew machines, and he knew how to make them do things they weren't supposed to do. That was his strength. Your ship had advanced scanners, right? Evan asked suddenly. Yes, Lyria said. But it was destroyed. But your escape pod, does it have anything left? She blinked. Some basic systems survived. Why? Evan smiled in a way that made her tilt her head. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just thought of something risky. If we connect your pod's core to the station, we might turn our weak scanners into something stronger. Enough to confuse the enemy. Lyria's eyes brightened. A hybrid system? You believe you can merge human and Lasari tech? I can try, Evan said. I've been dealing with broken junk all my life. I can make almost anything work. She nodded slowly. Then I will help. I know my pod systems. Evan grabbed his toolkit. Let's hurry before the enemy decides to get brave. They raced through the hallway toward the hangar. Lyria kept up despite her earlier weakness. She moved with purpose now, like the fear had been replaced by a quiet determination. She didn't want to be helpless. She didn't want Evan to fight alone. Inside the hangar, the escape pod sat cracked and powered down, its purple lights faint but alive. Evan opened a panel on the side while Lyria hovered beside him. You know, Evan said as he worked, I didn't think today would involve hacking alien technology. Lyria watched him carefully. You adapt quickly. I have to, he replied. Humans always have to. She considered his words. Perhaps that is why humans rise so fast, not because of strength or power, but because they refuse to stop. Evan smirked. Now you're starting to understand us. He pulled out a glowing module from inside the pod. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. "That's the core?" he asked. "Yes," Lyria said. "Do not drop it. It holds the pod's memory and scanner link." "I won't drop it," Evan said, holding it like a fragile egg. "Probably." Her eyes widened slightly. "Probably? Just trust me." "I already do," she said softly. Evan paused for a second, surprised by the gentle warmth in her voice. But he quickly shook the thought away. They had work to do. They returned to the control deck. Evan connected cables, twisted wires, and plugged the alien core into the central port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the station hummed. Lights glowed brighter. The screens flickered to life. A new interface appeared on the main display, a blend of human blue and Lysari purple. Lyria's eyes widened. "You did it?" Evan grinned. "Told you I could." Lyria stepped closer to the screen, tapping symbols that only she understood. "I can use this to create false signals, false signatures. We can make the rebel ships believe a fleet is nearby." "That should scare them," Evan said. "Even rebels won't fight a royal fleet." Lyria nodded. Her fingers danced across the controls. A moment later, the station emitted a steady pulse, an encoded message meant to mimic royal military ships. Outside, the enemy vessels shifted positions. Evan watched on the radar as they reacted in sudden panic. "It's working," he whispered. But then something unexpected happened. One ship, larger than the rest, did not flee. Instead, it moved closer, slowly, fearlessly. "Whoever commands that one," Lyria said, "is smarter than the others. He knows the signal might be false." Evan frowned. Why is there always one clever guy in the group? The large ship drifted closer until its shadow darkened the station. Evan felt the pressure settle in his chest. The enemy commander was calling their bluff. "They'll try to board us," Evan said. "Yes," Lyria agreed. "It is only a matter of time." He checked the station's defenses again. Weak, old, almost useless, but he wasn't ready to give up. "We need to fight," Evan said. Lyria looked at him, gentle but firm. "I cannot ask you to fight for me." "You're not asking," Evan said. "I'm deciding." Her expression softened in a way that sent a small warmth through his chest. She seemed touched, deeply so. "Then I will stand with you," she said. Evan blinked. "You're still healing." "I am not a child," she said calmly. "I am a princess of the Lysari Dominion. I cannot hide while someone risks himself for me." Evan wanted to argue, but he saw the fire in her eyes and decided not to. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't scared anymore. She was ready. Footsteps echoed from the hallway as they prepared. The enemy had found a way in. Evan grabbed a shock baton, one of the few tools he had that could be used as a weapon. Lyria picked up a small glowing rod from her pod, something similar to a defensive tool. "Stay behind me," Evan said. "No," Lyria replied calmly. "We stand together." The first enemy soldier charged through the door. Evan dodged the swing and hit him with the shock baton. Sparks flew. The soldier dropped. Another came. Then another. Lyria moved gracefully, using her small weapon to emit stunning pulses of energy. She wasn't strong, but she was fast. Each attack was precise. Evan fought with pure instinct, ducking, hitting, dodging. He wasn't trained, but he had determination. He refused to let them take Lyria. More rebels poured in. It felt endless. Evan's arms grew tired, but he didn't stop. Lyria stayed by his side, her glowing eyes sharp. At one point, Evan was cornered. A rebel soldier raised a weapon to strike him. But before the blow landed, a flash of silver shot past him. Lyria moved like a beam of light, hitting the rebel with a force field pulse. Evan stared. "You saved me." "You saved me first," she said simply. They kept fighting until the corridor fell silent. The rebels on this level were defeated, for now. Evan leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. That was crazy. Lyria wiped dust from her arms. It was necessary. Evan looked at her, amazed. You're tougher than you look. Lyria's cheeks glowed faintly again. You do not know much about my kind. Well, Evan said, I'm learning. Then the station shook again, but this time, not from enemy fire. A new signal appeared on the screen. Evan stared in disbelief. Is that? Lyria's eyes widened with hope. A Lysari loyal fleet. They got your message, Evan said. They're coming. Lyria turned toward him, her expression warm and relieved. You made this possible, Evan Holt. You repaired the signal. You fought beside me. Without you, I would not be alive. Evan felt his face grow warm. He scratched his neck awkwardly. Well, someone had to do it. She stepped closer, her eyes softening. You underestimate your courage. Evan swallowed. Lyria's glowing cheeks were only inches from him now. Her presence felt warm, calming, familiar. But before either of them could say anything more, the enemy commander's ship outside charged its cannons. They're going to try a final attack, Evan said. Lyria nodded. Then we must hold until my fleet arrives. Side by side, they turned toward the control deck. They weren't just engineer and princess anymore. They were partners in survival. And in that moment, both of them understood the same truth. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The great hall of the Zerathian capital glowed with soft silver light as Adrian walked inside behind Princess Liara. Even after days on the planet, he still felt overwhelmed by the beauty around him. The ceilings looked like the night sky, the walls shimmered like living crystal, and the people, tall, graceful, elegant, turned their heads when Adrian passed, whispering among themselves. But this time the whispers sounded different, not fearful, not doubtful, respectful. Some even nodded at him, something he never thought he would witness after the rough beginning of his journey. Adrian walked with calm steps, but inside, his heart beat fast. Everything in his life had changed so suddenly. From an ordinary human struggling with his past, he now stood inside an alien throne room, about to face a council that could decide the future of two species. Liara walked slightly ahead of him. Her silver hair fell freely behind her shimmering armor. She held her chin high, but Adrian could sense the tension in her shoulders. She cared deeply about this moment, and she cared about him being part of it. He followed her until they both reached the center of the grand hall. The 9 members of the Royal Council sat on tall seats that curved like wings around them. Their leader, High Chancellor Varian, stared down with calm but sharp eyes. Princess Liara, Varian said, and Adrian, son of Earth, you returned from your mission sooner than expected. Liara nodded respectfully. Because the danger grew sooner than we predicted. The High Chancellor leaned forward. The Pyron Raiders. Adrian stepped forward. Not just raiders, he said. An entire fleet, and they are preparing something worse, something that will hit more than Zerathia. The council murmured in concern. Chancellor Varian lifted a hand. Explain. Adrian took a breath and recalled the moment everything shifted. When we boarded the stolen outpost, we found files, plans. The Pyron leader wants to use a gravity destabilizer. It will tear apart small planets. They plan to use it on Zerathia first. The hall fell silent. Even Liara's eyes widened. Adrian hadn't told her this part yet. One council member leaned forward. Are you certain? Adrian nodded. I saw the schematics myself. Humans are not as advanced as Zerathians, but we understand destruction. And what I saw is destruction. Princess Liara stepped beside him. We must act before they strike. Another council member spoke. But how? Their ships are fast. Their technology is stolen but powerful. We cannot evacuate a planet of billions. Adrian raised his voice. Then we don't react. We stop them first. Everyone turned to him. Liara looked confused. Adrian, what are you suggesting? He took a breath. You told me Pyron ships depend on a central energy core. If we destroy their core station before their fleet launches, they lose everything. Liara's eyes widened. That station is hidden deep in the Red Nebula. It is surrounded by magnetic storms. Then take me there, Adrian said. We can use the stealth drive your father built. If we strike before they activate the destabilizer, we save both your people and many more. Silence returned. The council stared at Adrian as if studying something unusual in him. He wondered what they saw, a human trying to help aliens, or a fool ready to risk his life. Finally, Varian spoke. Princess, do you support this plan? Liara stepped closer to Adrian. Her voice was steady. Yes, because he is right, and because I trust him. Adrian felt a warm shock run through him. She trusted him, not because he was strong, not because he had power, but because she believed in him. The High Chancellor closed his eyes for a moment. Then so be it. The Council grants approval. Liara exhaled in relief. Adrian felt his heart race. The mission had begun. The stealth ship sliced through the dark nebula, hidden behind swirling red dust and lightning-like streaks of energy. Adrian sat in the pilot chair, focusing on the readings Liara taught him to understand. He wasn't a trained pilot, but humans were adaptable. He learned fast, and Liara guided him patiently. She checked the rear scanners. We are still undetected. That's good, Adrian replied, because if they spot us, we're done. Liara sat beside him, her voice calm, but her fingers tense on the controls. Are you sure you want to do this, Adrian? The Council approved the mission, not your involvement. He gave a small smile. I know, but Earth would never forgive me if I watched a whole planet die and did nothing. Besides, he paused, suddenly embarrassed. Liara looked at him. Besides what? He swallowed and turned away. I don't want anything to happen to you. Her expression softened. Adrian. Before she could say more, the ship shook slightly. Alarms blinked. We're approaching the station, Adrian whispered. Through the window, the massive Pyron structure floated like a metal fortress wrapped in firelight. Ships docked around it like dark insects. Its red energy pulses glowed violently inside. It's huge, Adrian said. Liara nodded. And dangerous. But look there. She pointed at a small opening near the side. The maintenance tunnel. If we get close enough, we can slip inside. And plant the destabilizer disruptor? Yes. It will collapse their entire station from the inside. Adrian tightened his grip on the controls. Humans weren't known for their elegance, but they were known for doing the impossible when it mattered. He guided the ship closer, dodging sensor beams, hiding behind floating debris, moving with careful precision. Sweat formed on his forehead. Liara watched him. You are surprisingly calm. I'm not, he admitted. I'm terrified. She gave a soft smile. Good. Fear means you are aware, but courage means you still move forward. Her words gave him strength. Finally, the ship reached the outer lip of the maintenance tunnel. We're in position, Adrian whispered. Liara stood and took the disruptor device. Let's go. They moved through the small airlock and slid into the narrow metal tunnel. It was dark, tight, and filled with the distant hum of dangerous energy. Adrian stayed close behind Liara as she led the way. Halfway through the tunnel, a metallic echo sounded from ahead. Footsteps. Liara froze. Adrian's heartbeat raced. A Pyron guard appeared from the shadows, a tall figure with red armor and glowing eyes. It raised its weapon. Liara moved instantly, knocking the weapon aside. Adrian followed by grabbing the guard from behind. The Pyron struggled, but Adrian used his strength to push it into the wall. Liara pressed a button on her wrist, releasing a harmless stun pulse. The guard collapsed, unconscious. Adrian breathed heavily. That was too close. Liara frowned. We need to move faster. They continued carefully until they reached the main core chamber. The huge, glowing structure filled the room with an angry red light. Sparks cracked around it. It looked unstable, like a beating heart made of fire. Liara knelt and began setting the disruptor. Adrian watched the door, listening for footsteps, feeling the tension in the air. Almost done, she whispered. He nodded. Hurry! A sudden alarm blared. They both froze. A robotic voice echoed through the chamber. Unidentified presence detected. Liara's eyes widened. No, someone activated security. Adrian grabbed her hand and helped her stand. Is the device ready? It only needs 10 more seconds. They ran behind a large metal pillar for cover as heavy footsteps approached. Several Pyron guards stormed into the room, weapons glowing. Adrian felt panic rising. Liara, they'll find us! She worked quickly on the disruptor, her fingers moving fast. 5 seconds! The guards spread out. 3. Adrian took a deep breath. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were stubborn, brave, and willing to fight when everything seemed lost. He jumped out from cover and yelled to distract the guards. All their weapons turned toward him. Adrian! Liara screamed. But he kept shouting, running across the room, making noise, forcing the Pyrons to follow him. Liara slammed her hand on the device. Activation complete! The disruptor lit up with a powerful white glow. The station began to tremble violently. Alarms screamed. Energy cracked across the walls. The huge core pulsed dangerously, turning unstable. Liara ran toward Adrian. We need to leave. Now! He nodded and sprinted with her down the tunnel. Behind them, the station shook harder. Explosions echoed through the metal walls. They reached their ship and jumped inside. Adrian took the pilot's seat instantly. Hold on, he shouted. Liara strapped herself in. Go, Adrian! The ship shot out of the tunnel just as the station erupted behind them. A wave of burning energy exploded outward. Adrian pushed the ship's engines to full power. They dodged flying debris and boiling waves of energy. The shock wave chased them. Liara gripped her seat. Faster! I'm trying! The ship burst through the final ring of red clouds, and the explosion vanished behind them like a dying star. Silence returned. Adrian finally exhaled. He let his hands fall from the controls and leaned back in exhaustion. Liara stared at him, breathless. You saved us. Adrian shook his head. We saved them. She smiled softly. And you saved me. He turned to look at her. Her expression was warm, gentle, grateful, and something more, something he didn't know if he deserved. Liara placed her hand on his. For a human, she whispered, you are far braver than anyone I have ever known. Adrian felt heat rush to his face. He smiled nervously. You're definitely hotter than my ex. Liara froze. Her silver cheeks turned bright pink. The alien princess blushed again. And this time, she didn't look away when he smiled at her. She squeezed his hand gently. Then, perhaps you should stay on Zerathia a little longer. Adrian felt his heart warm with a feeling he couldn't describe. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel lost. He didn't feel broken. He felt like he finally belonged somewhere, and maybe with someone. As the ship carried them home, he looked at Liara and realized something. Saving a planet was incredible, but finding someone who believed in him was even more powerful.